So this week I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Mauritius, the truth about living here, perhaps stuff that you're not hearing directly. I've spoken to lots of friends and fellow expats living here to bring you some insight about what it's really like living here. I'd first of all like to begin by saying that people often move over here, and while they love it, there of course are things that they like, things that they don't like. And I always say to people, the grass is never greener on the other side. Just remember that it's only green where you water it. So do think carefully about that as I'm making this video. And also, a lot of this stuff is my personal perspective. You might have different perspectives. So yeah, please do be nice in the comments section. Please also remember that nowhere in the world is perfect, and you've got to realize that maybe sometimes your expectations are a little bit out there, and sometimes you have to just be happy with where you live. So I'm going to split this video up into pros and cons, or positives and negatives. I'm going to leave chapter markers just in case you want to get straight to the point and find out specific things. Okay, so bear with me on this one. So positives. The first person that I asked said that this was the best move that they have ever made, and they wish they'd actually done it sooner. Of course, there are problems and frustrations. Are many of them consequential enough to make them want to leave? No way. They absolutely love living here. So that was quite positive. They also said that although they're Mauritian, they actually don't speak French or Creole, but this is something that in the future they would really like to try and remedy. They also said that they absolutely loved here. For their daughter, it was fantastic. Their husband really enjoyed it as well. And it's just such a nice, healthy lifestyle. Also, they found it relatively easy to live here if you're an expat and you're earning a good salary. And that's something that I absolutely must highlight. I do find that a lot of people who live here thrive if they're working for an international company and they're earning good money. Moral of the story, and this applies to anywhere in the world, if you come here and you have a low-paid job, life is going to be tough for you. A good friend of mine had said that one of the reasons they really like living here is also because of the low tax rate. It's probably pretty much one of the lowest rates in the world. And of course, one would have to offset that with other things like the cost of living and food prices, those sorts of things. But yeah, if you're coming here and you're starting a business, that tax rate is very favorable. Another friend said that they had a little bit of guilt when they first moved here, because every time they would send photos to their friends back home, it would be these amazing pictures of fantastic viewpoints and, beautiful landscapes. And they actually felt pretty guilty that they were living in this tranquil, idyllic place. Then there's the weather. This came up quite a lot. A friend of mine said that the weather here is just absolutely fantastic. It's really a great climate. You pretty much have weather throughout the year where you can wear t-shirts and shorts. There's no change in that. There might be slightly cooler temperatures in winter. For sure, there might be times like in winter where you need to put a jacket on, but generally the whole year round, you have a really wonderful, favorable climate. On the other side, the climate can also be a negative thing, because I know, for example, for me, in summer, I have to make sure that if I'm doing sport, I've got to do it first thing in the morning or in the evening, because it gets so hot and so humid and you don't actually realize that it impacts your daily life. So yeah, this weather can be a positive and it can also be a negative. If you don't like hot, humid climates, you're not going to like it here. Me personally, I absolutely love it in winter, because it's you get these wonderful sunny days and you're still wearing the same clothes, but it's just you're not sweating all the time. The slow pace of life. So if you come from a big city and you come to Mauritius, you might find that you're going to need a little bit of time to adjust to the island life, as it were, to this much slower pace. Sometimes if you go to the shop and you're buying something and somebody takes a lot of time, you have to just go, whew, breathe in, breathe out, relax. This is island time. This is the way it is here. Be calm. And for some people, perhaps they'll find it too sleepy. They'll find it's feels like more of a retirement village. I know I find sometimes where I live, I'm very happy to spend the entire day at home because it's just so peaceful and quiet. But yeah, for some people, perhaps they prefer more of the hustle and bustle. If you're coming from London or Paris or New York, you might find it quite difficult to adapt. Lots of people mentioned the outdoor life, and this is for sure great. I mean, I love living here because I'm such a sporty person. So it is a fantastic place to come if you've got interests in hiking and sailing or surfing, kayaking, cycling, paddle, all those sorts of things. It's fantastic for outdoor life. On that note too, there's really so much to do. You know, you can join groups, and I often say this to people when you arrive here, do interact with other people via WhatsApp groups and Facebook. You can just type in, hiking groups or paddle groups. It's very easy to get in touch with people, and I find they're very welcoming here. I do think that if you really want to make friends, you've just landed in the country, you know nobody, that would be a good way, is to get in touch with people on groups. This is a really good way to quickly meet people and to socialize and basically find the people that you like. Then one of my friends mentioned something which I thought was quite interesting, because I actually have thought about this quite a lot too. If you come here with young kids, kids, let's say from the age group of 5 to 14 or 15, I do find, and this person had mentioned this to me too, that kids seem to be more innocent here. They're more sheltered, they're more in a bubble. There's less chance of them, going off and doing crazy things related to drugs, or, nightclubs are limited here, especially if you have teenagers. So I think it's much easier for kids to remain innocent for longer here, climbing trees, hiking in the mountains, playing in the sand on the beach. This goes back to the outdoor lifestyle. It's, I think, for particularly families with younger kids, it's really amazing here. On the other side, this could potentially be a negative, but I do find that as soon as your kids become teenagers around the 15, 16 to 18-year-old mark, the island life perhaps is limiting for them, but I will touch more on that later. Some of my European friends had mentioned the government here. They find it quite refreshing that they're less on your case, on your back. It's not so much of a police state as it would be like somewhere like in Australia, which I know is very, very rigid, and you really have to conform within the box. Whereas I think here you're slightly freer. The government seems to give you more space in this area. Then there's cyclones. This came up quite a lot as well. There's this crazy buzz that you get when there's a cyclone coming in Mauritius. Everyone's rushing about and they're not sure if this is going to be a big storm or a small storm, so they go off to the shops, and there's an excitement with the kids because if the storm hits, then maybe they'll miss school. And it's quite nice when you're at home and you light some candles, and there's this feeling of maybe going back a few decades when perhaps you'd be sitting around in the evening with friends by candlelight. So it's got this intimate feeling. But then on the other side, cyclones can obviously be very destructive. If they hit and there's a lot of damage done, you can have damage to your house, to your car, to the communities. It can be particularly bad. And of course, usually they don't take any risks here. They close schools if there's a cyclone. So from a parental's perspective, that can be a real downside, a real negative, because if you have to go to work, for example, what do you do with your kids? And then you've got them around the house, and then sometimes you have to do homeschooling. So yeah, cyclones could be a positive and also a negative. Then one friend commented on the Creole and the French language barrier. Should I call it a barrier? I'll say barrier, potential language issue. And they were saying that a little goes a long way in terms of learning a bit of French and Creole. The locals will really embrace you if you try and speak just a little bit of French or a little bit of Creole, even if it's just a few words here and there. The fact that you've tried really breaks the ice, as it were, and it sends a signal to them that you're trying. So yeah, I would just say to you, if you do come here, do learn a little bit of French, do learn a bit of Creole, because it just goes a long way. And at the end of the day, we're here in a new country and we want to try and fit in with them. We don't want them to try and fit in with us. We have to respect locals. And so, yeah, do learn a little bit of French, learn a few Creole phrases. When you go to the shops, engage in these languages and don't be ashamed, don't be shy. Often they just really appreciate that you're trying and they'll smile and then it's all worth it and you'll laugh and it's fantastic. This one is an obvious one which came up with quite a few people that I spoke to, and that's always be polite and stay polite. The locals here are not aggressive and we really must try our hardest to fit in. I kind of mentioned this a little bit on my previous statement. So don't make it the other way around. Don't make it so the locals have to fit into you. You're not in your own home country here. You're in a new country and it's your duty to be respectful, to be nice. Okay? And at the end of the day, we're visitors to this island. So always be respectful. I mean, I really shouldn't have to say this. It should be just natural for you to be like that. Another positive would be hospitals and healthcare. And this has been a huge surprise to me. I had one friend say to me that they moved over here, they got quite sick, and they were quite apprehensive about going down the route of actually using hospitals and healthcare here. And once they started their treatment, they were absolutely blown away at how effective they were here, how kind and caring, and how good, how amazingly good the healthcare was and is. So, yeah, a lot of people have actually said that to me. They were blown away by the care that they've received. Healthcare is really growing in Mauritius, particularly in the cosmetic side, related to teeth and facial procedures, those sorts of things. So do look out for that. I think Mauritius is going to become even better in the future. And just driving around where I live, there are loads of new clinics and hospitals opening up everywhere. So you can pretty much get any procedure you need on this island, whether it be emergencies or not. So yeah, a big thumbs up for the healthcare. Next one was quite a funny one. A friend of mine told me about the light flashing thing when you're driving in your car, and someone puts their bright beams on, like a quick tuk-tuk to flash you. In South Africa, where I come from, when you do that, that means to the person, go, you go. Whereas here, when you flash your lights like that, if you're a local, it means I need to go, I'm going, be cautious. She said that took quite a bit of getting used to, and there were a few near misses in terms of accidents, so I thought that was quite funny. The fact that this is a small island, sometimes I find it's quite difficult to find things, specific things. I'll just give you an example. I like playing guitar, and I buy guitar strings fairly regularly, and sometimes when you go to the shops, you can't find that specific string that I really like, and then you have to order it. The same with car parts. Some people would say that this is a negative, but actually I'm going to say this is a positive in a way that it teaches you to be less consumeristic in terms of, I don't do much ordering here online. Temu has just started to become a thing here, but Amazon, I never order from Amazon while I'm living here. I never get it delivered here, should I say. So I would say it teaches you to be less consumeristic. So that, I think, is a positive. When you live here, you just have to realize that sometimes you're not going to be able to get stuff that you would potentially be able to get if you lived in a big city in another place. Some expats have also said to me that they found the public hospitals here to be really good too. Like in the Black River Village, there's a hospital called Yves Contain, and a lot of people have said to me that they find the service there really fantastic, and you can go there. So for example, say you stand on a sea urchin, you can go to Yves Contain and they will help you there. They're really good also for stitches and things like that. And there again, it's free. You walk in there, you show them your Mauritian ID card, and off you go. So that's another positive for the health here. When you first arrive on this island, it can be overwhelming, and I know what it's like when you don't know anybody and you feel like you're out of your depth. You almost feel like you're drowning. You're excited to be in a new place, but it's also incredibly hard. And this one mum had told me that she thought it was absolutely amazing the way that she got involved with and also volunteered within the schools. And she thought this was the best way, especially if your kids are at school, to get to know the other parents, to get to know the other kids. It's really just fantastic for getting your foot in the door, as it were. And from then onwards, you can build up relationships, and it will just make your stay on this island so much better. One expat mentioned that she's now living in the centre, having lived in the north and the west previously, and actually she's really enjoying being in the centre because it's less of an expat area, and it means that she really has to go out there and really mingle and interact and get to know a lot of local people, and she's found it so refreshing and so lovely because, again, I'm going back to people in Mauritius are generally very kind and very compassionate and are eager to help you. So, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, for me personally, I'm a West girl. Whenever I drive to the north, I really feel out of place. But, you know, that's each to their own. We're not all going to love the same part of the island. And it's known that the places where most expats live are either in the north and the west. One person told me that when they moved here, their husband was working, but they were not. And they found this quite hard because while their husband went off to work all day, he was able to immediately make friends and colleagues, and his work became his, you know, most of his daily life. Whereas the woman was at home and she found it much harder to break into social circles. And the main bit of advice that this particular lady gave was, when you come here and you're invited by locals to their house for a social event or whatever the event might be, do not turn down that offer. You must absolutely go, because in that way you can meet some amazing people, and then you can work out people you like, people that you want to become friends with. But, you know, always say yes to that first invitation, because maybe they won't invite you back again. So I thought that was quite a useful bit of advice. Now, this one's for any people who are coming out here and opening up a business, and that is that because it's a small island, absolutely make sure that when you open up a business, your service is brilliant. Because remember, a small island means things travel around very quickly. Do not get involved in any type of gossip, and just make sure that you deliver on your promise with regards to services that your business provide, because that way you get positive feedback and then you will have success. You're absolutely guaranteed to thrive on this island. Then some people have said to me that, you know, although Mauritius is expensive, they have found that there are certain things which are really cheap, like, for example, gas. Fuel for your car is also less expensive than places like Europe. And water is pretty cheap. But then on the other side, food is very expensive, and so is electricity. And of course, renting houses, particularly here in the West, has really gone through the roof. So yeah, that's a pro and a con. Now I'm going to head more to the negative aspects, or the cons of living here. And I kind of just literally touched on that, and that's the cost of living. And I know that this is a global issue. This is not particular just to Mauritius, but for sure, stuff is expensive here. So if you're coming over here, make sure you have a decent salary, because you might be in for a shock. One thing that I really don't understand, and if you know the answer to this, please leave it down in the comments below. Why are lychees so expensive? We're now in summer. I'm seeing lychees on the shelves and they cost an absolute fortune. Please do let me know if you have any understanding of why things like mangoes and lychees are so expensive here. In fact, any local fruit, also watermelons, it's quite hectic, the pricing that's going on here. So yeah, you might be surprised, you might be shocked. I also, on the other side, I do get a lot of people messaging me saying that it's way cheaper than where they live in France or in the United States. So yeah, it just depends. But generally, I do find Mauritius to be incredibly expensive. Education, and I'm feeling this right now. I'm just going to say off the bat that the primary schools here, I think, are really good. I was incredibly happy. My kids first started off in the French system. at a school called Pour les Virginie, and then they moved over to the English system, and they were at a school here on the West Coast. It was wonderful. There was a great mix of local teachers and international teachers, and lots of different kids from all over the place, which was awesome. But on the other side, the high school, this is when things start getting really tricky. When your kids reach the age of 13, so basically teenagers, you might find that the education is lacking perhaps your expectation. So just be aware of that. I have actually just witnessed a whole lot of my friends have taken their kids out of school, and they're either doing boarding school internationally or they're moving off the island. So, or of course homeschooling. There are some good schools, like for example Wolseley Hall is quite a good online homeschool. So just be aware of that perhaps the high school education is not going to be the way that you thought it would be. This next one was quite interesting. I wasn't actually expecting it. It's buying a car. Some people have said that they found the process here to be really long. You buy a car, you think it's going to take 3 to 4 days, and it lands up actually taking 3 to 4 months. That might be a really extreme case because I've bought 3 cars here and I didn't have that problem. But yeah, paperwork can be a thing here. They really do love to have everything written down, handwritten. Things are slowly moving more into the digital world. But yeah, again, going back to island life and the slow pace, it's one of those things you have to grin and bear it and just accept that some things do not move as swiftly and as fast as they perhaps do where you come from. This is also a visa issue. I know that at the moment the EDB is absolutely chocker with all sorts of applications. So yeah, just be aware that things might take a little time. Okay. Another subscriber mentioned to me that this is a negative that they potentially turned into a positive, and that was that when they moved over here, they were renting an unfurnished house and they had no furniture. So instead of sitting on the floor at home, they would go out and they would actually explore the island. And this was awesome because it really... They got to see places that they would never normally have seen. And this person had said to me that they really recommend that people actually drive around the island. Don't be scared. Go on little adventures and turn those moments where, oh no, I don't have a couch to sit on, into, oh wow, let's go and look at a waterfall today. So I thought that was quite a cool way to change your mindset. Many people who wrote into me said that they found the first year to be very hard. You know, being in a new country, not knowing anybody, and missing friends and family back home. And I think this is where we go back to what I said earlier about this amazing community that we have in Mauritius. And I think that's because when you're here, when you don't have grandparents, when you don't have good friends to turn to, you make the people around you your friends, and you really help each other and you build these incredible connections. And I've really found since living here, I actually have more people that I can depend on here than I ever had back home. So yeah, community life here is fantastic. The negative is, of course, that you're away from home. You're away normally from your parents and your good friends, but you do make great connections here. The con of that also, and I'm really having a tough time with this at the moment, actually. I'm losing quite a few friends right now, and it's absolutely heartbreaking when you've spent 3-5 years building these amazing friendships, and then suddenly the people leave. Sometimes you know they're leaving because they're here on a 3-year or a 5-year contract, and that happens a lot here. Expats come here for that amount of time and then they go. But it is hard. This is one of the toughest things, is dealing with people coming and going. It really is a transient place. It might be actually, I think a small island might be one of the most transient places you can possibly experience. But I've met so many fantastic people, really I have. The next one really affects me quite badly, I will admit, and that's the street dog issue. They estimate that in Mauritius there's over 200,000 street dogs. So just be aware that when you drive around, you're always going to see strays, And you will probably want to, if you're like me anyway, you'll probably want to adopt them all. And you very quickly realize that you can't help every single dog out there. So my advice to you is, if you can, adopt a dog, adopt 2 dogs. I have 3, whatever. Do your bit. And then if you can, give to communities. There are lots of people. I know there's a fantastic one in Chamarel. They're called Happy Tails. You can donate food, or you can drop off food to people that you know who are feeding dogs, and that can be your contribution. I know a lot is being done at the moment to try and curb this issue. There's a whole big sterilization project going on. So yeah, just be aware that, and I think a lot of tourists have complained about this, but yeah, street dogs, they are literally everywhere. One of my friends mentioned that perhaps culturally Mauritius is lacking. And when I say culturally, I mean in terms of going to the theatre, having big headline concerts here, those sorts of things I also do miss. But I have to say the Coudon waterfront in Port Louis is fantastic. I've seen some really amazing ballet shows there and live bands. And there are some fantastic Mauritian bands, like I love Anga. She's brilliant. So yeah, it could be better in terms of theatre, also sporting events. It would be amazing if we could see some great tennis players here, for example. But, you know, this will all come, and I reckon we're going to see a lot more bands here, for example. So this will definitely improve. Traffic. This came up a lot. Many people mentioned this. Particularly in the West at the moment, they're redoing a road or a major intersection into Flic-en-Flac and Cascavel, and this is causing lots of congestion. Also, all around the island, you have a lot of villages which are connected with highways. So suddenly you'll be on the highway, and then the next minute you'll be in a tiny little windy village. The roads are narrow. There are a lot of cars. There's a lot of dogs and goats and people on bikes and buses. So yeah, the traffic is pretty bad here. But I'm hoping that with new highways and new roads, things will get better. Yeah, so if you're driving a lot in Mauritius, again, this goes back to what I said earlier about just be calm, take your time, accept the pace of island life. Sometimes you're going to sit in a lot of traffic, so just be aware of that. And although we have a tram, it's not connected around the whole of the island. So yeah, you likely, if you come and live here, you will likely need a car. There are buses as well, but yeah, it can be difficult to get anywhere on time. The next one is furniture and kitchen appliances. Some people say that they find it very hard to find stuff that they want on this island, and also it's incredibly expensive. And of course, Mauritius is a small island. Lots of things are imported. The consumer market has really suffered with import duties and also, shipment costs. So my advice to you would be, if you are moving over here and you have furniture where you currently live, bring it over in a container. Otherwise, find yourself a local carpenter here who will make stuff to your specs. On another note, the furniture here is expensive, but a lot of it is made out of teak, and that is a good wood for when you're living in a hot climate, a hot, humid climate like this. Teak really works very well. So yeah, if you have specific needs with kitchen goods and appliances or audio equipment, all those sorts of things, furniture, bring it with you. Then you know that you've got exactly what you want, and it will likely be cheaper. When you buy a car also, this is my little tip for you, buy a car on this island where you have guarantee of parts. So for example, Hyundai, Kia, Mazda, those kind of cars, you're going to easily find parts, or Toyota as well. One thing I have found, for example, recently, the clutch on my car, I had problems with it, and it's going to take several months to actually get that clutch back, that part on this island. So just be aware that because it's a small island, it's going to be difficult sometimes to find things like car parts. I know also I've been looking for windscreen wipers, and apparently there's a new shipment coming in on Friday. But yeah, just be aware of those things. You're not always going to get everything that you need exactly on that day. Okay, so that's a bit of a negative. Another con or a negative would be employment here. So if you come over to the island and you don't have a job and then you decide you'd like to work here, just be aware that salaries are quite low, and obviously there's a very small pool of jobs for expats. So just be aware that it might be quite difficult for you to find employment here. So on that note, if you can, come here with enough of a cushioning in terms of savings, just so if it does take a while, you've got backup. And that's generally it. I mean, most people that I spoke to really love living here, and that's why they've stayed. I have many friends who've lived here for, 15, 20 years, and they're not going anywhere. Me personally, I've been here 9 years, and I absolutely love living here. I have a great life. I have so many amazing friends. My kids also enjoy living here. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. So if you found this video useful, do leave me a comment down below. Let me know things that you like, maybe things that you dislike. Well, it's been great having you listen to this podcast style video. I hope it's been useful. If it has, please subscribe, like the video, and of course leave a comment, because I really, really love hearing from you. If you want to move over here, email me and I can make that happen for you. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee, because I love that caffeine kick. And that's it. I'm going to leave you, and I will check you on the next one. See ya.